Let's show how to build generators using letCC. So this function, makeNumbers, takes in a starting number and then returns a generator. Jumping down below, we can use makeNumbers by supplying an initial value, in this case 0, and now every time we call g, we get the next value in the sequence, 0, 1, 2, and this will go on as many times as we feel like calling g. Now up inside the body, generator starts with an identifier, and this identifier gets bound to a function that will return the next value that we want as the result from the generator. Inside the body, we describe how to compute results. So we declare a function numbers that starts from n, and we'll kick this off with start n as the initial value. This function first yields the current number and then recurs with that number plus 1. Every time the generator reaches a yield call, it stops. It returns the value out to the generator caller, and then it pauses. It won't go any further until the generator is called the second time. So when we call g for the first time, the generator will spin until it reaches the first yield, then it will yield 0, and then stop, bounce back out to the top level, and then wait until it's called again. Now at the second call, we pick up right where we left off at the yield. Call numbers with n plus 1, jump back in, and yield 1 this time. Now let's see an implementation. We've got one macro here to help us define a generator. So the macro will take in an identifier and then a body, just like we described, and it wraps these two things up in a function. First a function to define yield, and then a function to delay the execution of the body. We'll see in a minute how we wrap this up in a makeGenerator function. First, let's see it used down below. So we've got makeNumbers just like we saw before, and then we're calling g 3 times, and we expect 0, 1, 2 as the output. And yes, that's what we've got. Now we can keep calling g on the right-hand side. Cool. How does it work? makeGenerator prepares two mutable variables, yield and go. Yield is a function that we'll use to return values, and go is a function that we'll use to compute the next value. And go starts off by calling our input procedure with a function that will yield the value that you give it. So remember, in makeGenerator up above, this is a function that returns a function. We're doing the first call here. So when we call proc down below, we're supplying a value for yield ID. The function takes in a v and then yields v. Now in the body of the generator, we have a thunk, sets up an escape continuation, and then assigns to yield and calls go with a dummy argument. So the first time we call this function, we'll do some installing, and then we'll kick off the generator to compute the first value. And what do we install? We set up yield as a function that's going to, once it receives a value, it'll save the current continuation, reset go to be that continuation, and then escape out to the top with the value. So with that setup, when we run go and it eventually calls yield, and that yield call will escape to the very top level. So whatever value we decide to yield, that will be the outcome of this letCC. So that's what the caller of the function will get. And remember, this function is the return value of makeGenerator. So this is what we have over here on the right. This is the g that we're calling again and again. Every time we call g, we jump back inside this function on line 17. And that will set up a new escape continuation, update yield, then call go, which will run until it yields again.